Students, welcome to the third class of Unit 2. So in the last class we had seen that the mechanism of formation of the complex here of octahedral, so via SN1 mechanism. In SN1 mechanism we had seen that there was case 1 and case 2, and the reaction proceeded through the square pyramidal intermediate, okay. Because there was the less movement of the bonds, and that's why in case 1 the in case 1 in SN1 mechanism the reaction proceeded through the square pyramidal intermediate rather than TBP, that is trigonal bipyramidal. This was in the last class, okay. So all of you see the previous slide for that, and we had stopped at the end of the SN1. So today we will proceed to the SN2. So here I have written the PBP, okay, pentagonal bipyramidal formation in SN2, the case 1. So we had stopped here. So in case 1, okay, SN2 mechanism, in case 1 we have seen that the intermediate was pentagonal bipyramids, okay. So which required lot of bending of these bonds, okay. So because of this, what will happen, there will be more ligand repulsion will be there, and because of this the PBP will not favor the SN1 mechanism. For this octahedral complexes in SN2 mechanism, this will not favor, okay. That was in previous slide we had seen this. In case 2, this was the case 1 here, so by which it proceeds through the intermediate pentagonal bipyramidal, but this requires lot of bond breaking, bond bending, and more ligand repulsions, and that's why this is not favorable. Octahedral complexes will not favor this route, okay, of a PBP, pentagonal bipyramidal route for SN2 mechanism in case 1. But in case 2, you can see here I said yesterday's class octahedral wedge. So same thing here. So X is there. So all this is a complex here initial, and the new ligand is being introduced into this, and SN2 means what? It is associative. So when it is introduced to this bond breaks here, and we get here octahedral. This is octahedral wedge here. X is there and Y is there, okay. So this becomes 7 coordinated intermediate, that is called octahedral wedge, like here yesterday's class. This is 7 coordinated pentagonal bipyramidal SN2 mechanism case 1, so which is discarded because of lot of bendings. Similarly case 2, we will find here octahedral wedge. So this is what the structure is. So 7 coordinated, like in SN1 we got 5 coordinated as a dissociation, here association. So this intermediate will is going to form. After that this is going to be eliminated again, okay, and it's a fast reaction, okay, and we are going to get this structure, octahedral structure, okay. And that's why, since this octahedral wedge requires very less bending of the bond here, so less repulsion, that's why SN2 mechanism is favored for octahedral wedge. So always SN2 mechanism for the octahedral complexes, they proceed through the octahedral wedge rather than the this one, pentagonal bipyramidal. So here we completed the reaction mechanism of the octahedral complexes, that is SN1, SN2. So this stereochemistry, the structures you should know here for SN1 and SN2, and some points which we discussed in the last slide and this slide. Very important concept of the octahedral complexes, which can be asked for 4 marks, major marks question for the PG level, okay. Right, next concept will go of this unit 2, that is labile and inert complexes, okay. What is this labile and inert complexes? In the BSc level we have learned that any complexes having very free movement of the ligands, we call it as a labile complexes, okay. There is a quick exchange here. So there is a quick exchange of one or more ligands from the coordination sphere. So such complexes we call it as a labile complexes. The name itself says labile means what? Is a free movement of the ligands from inside the coordination sphere to the outside coordination sphere. So such we call it as a labile. Name, same thing, the name itself says inert. Inert means they do not permit. See, so it's very stuck, no, the ligands are very fixed here to the metal ion, and they are not moved outside this is a coordination sphere, so they are not going to move outside the sphere, neither any of the ligand outside will come inside the coordination sphere. So such we call it as a inert. So name itself says inert, they are very stagnant, okay. Labile, yes, you can, so one ligand can be replaced by the another ligand can be replaced inside this by this ligand. So such things labile, like this. But in some cases you can see that one example I have given, nickel cyanate complex here. So nickelate complex here, that this is thermodynamically stable. See, it is proved experimentally, some out of box here. So nickel tetracyanate minus 2, this complex is thermodynamically, it is proved thermodynamically stable. As you increase the temperature, it's not going, it's stable for a very large temperature. But it is found that it is kinetically labile. See, thermodynamically stable means it should not be labile, but it is proved that is, though it is thermodynamically stable, but it is kinetically labile. See how it is possible. It's very interesting chemistry here. So this is thermodynamically stable means what, it should not be labile, but it is labile. How it can be proved? It can be proved by isolation. So this is what, okay. So labeling with the cyanide, one of the cyanide with 14 years, what will happen? They have treated, the scientists have treated with this complex, and they have seen that in aqueous media the reaction was very fast, and they got this complex, that is NiCN3. This has been introduced into this here. Though it is a thermodynamically stable, one of the cyanide labeled has been introduced into this coordination sphere, and one of the cyanide from this inter coordination sphere has been left out. So you can see here, is it right? So that's what such case also are very rare, and we can see that though they are thermodynamically stable, they are labile in nature. This is exception case. This is what they may pick up out, and they may ask in the competitive examinations. Is it right? Similarly, one more complex I have taken here, that is cobalt hexa amino, okay, amine, hexaamine cobalt plus 3 complex. So it is, this is the reverse. It's a thermodynamically unstable. See, okay, this is thermodynamically unstable. That means at a normal temperature it is going to be destabilized. So they are not stable. But however, it has been observed that they are kinetically inert. See, very beautiful. It has been kinetic. That means this complex, if I put in water, aqueous medium, for 7 days or 8 days, I found that, so that is, this ligand is not been replaced by H2O. So they are kinetically inert, but it has been known that they are thermodynamically unstable. See, this is thermodynamically unstable, but such complex, if I placed in water for 7 days, there is no replacement of the NH3 group with the H2O. So that's why they are kinetically inert. See, such exception case will be there. So which is the odd man out, we say, no. So there are such things. So these two complexes you have to keep in the mind. Rest of the 99% complexes favor the definition of the labile and inert, but some complexes like 1%, you can see that they are reverse twist way. That is, they are thermodynamically stable but kinetically inert, kinetically labile, and they are thermodynamically unstable but kinetically inert. So this is what the case we have to see. So very funny thing we can see in the chemistry sometimes. And now how we can distinguish this labile and inert? Through valence bond theory, okay, VBT theory. So always VBT says that outer orbital complexes are, they are always labile. See, okay, outer orbital complexes are always labile. Outer orbital vacancy, what will be there? So outer orbital complexes, what we say, so they are always labile in nature, but as inner orbital complexes are inert in nature. See, and therefore SN1 mechanisms, they are always seen in this cases, inner cases, you can see, because in SN inner cases, what will happen? The ML bond is very strong, inner orbital. Is it right? So breaking of this ML bond is very difficult now for inner orbital complexes. They are very strong, and that's why they are going, which mechanism? They are going following the SN2 mechanism, inner orbital. Why SN2? Because dissociation, they cannot be dissociated. That's why ML bond cannot be dissociated. That's why association type of mechanism they are following. Okay, so which they are following? Inner orbital complexes. So whichever inner orbital complexes are there, so they are following SN2 non-association type of mechanisms here, then SN1. So this is what one small difference you have to keep in the mind. So for example, you can see here, so I have taken one n-1d inner orbital, 5 ns and np 3 orbitals, okay, and that of ligands is 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6 c. So these are the orbitals of the ligands, okay. In d0, how many orbitals will be, inner orbitals will be vacant here? 1 2 3 inner orbitals. That's why there are 3 vacant orbitals inner, and that's why which complex is this? Whether it is a inert or labile. So this becomes now labile complex. See, why? Because they are having 3 vacant orbitals, 1 2 3. That's why d0 complexes are labile in nature. Similarly, d1 you take now. So same thing here, 1 2 3 4 5 6. These are the ligands, okay. 3 orbitals are vacant. d1 means what? I will fill 1 electron here, okay. If I fill 1 electron here, so what will happen now? So we can see that 2 orbitals vacant. I will write here 2 3, here 2 orbitals vacant. So when it is for d1, 2 orbital vacants means they are labile or inert, so they becomes labile. So d1 also becomes labile. Now come to d3 now. See here again, 1 2 3 4 5 6, that of ligands. 3 d3 system means what? 1 2 3, all are filled. That means how many vacant orbitals are there? 0. So when 0 is there, so which complexes are they according to VBT? So it is inert. So d3 will be inert. Like this d6, so they also inert. 1 2 3 4 5 6. So d6 also is a inert. So this is how the inert and labile complexes is explained by the VBT. But there is some limitations for the VBT. So that is was the complex of nickel to D8 systems here. So configuration. So VBT says that is labile. So according to VBT, if you do like this, so it seems that the nickel 2 complex is labile, but experimentally it was found as a inert. See, so experimentally, because it is using the inner orbitals here and NS and NP here, so that's why it should be the labile complexes. It should be labile complexes here, D2 nickel 2. But according to VBT, but experimentally it was found that this complex nickel 2 complex D8 system as a inert. See, so here here was the limitations of the VBT here, which fails to explain properly the inert and labile nature of this complex, and that's why one more theory came into existence, that was CFT, that is crystal field splitting theory. Okay, so crystal field theory came. So this theory we will learn in the next slide. So what is this? And some more examples according to VBT. So we will distinguish the inert and labile in the next slide. Hope you understood this class. So in the next class we will learn a little bit more of the again inert and labile complexes followed by the CFT concept. Thank you.